Coal is the world's largest and cheapest source of energy. But coal is also the single biggest source of greenhouse gases that causes climate change. Yet, many developing countries, including India, can't live without it.
The struggle for India is that it's the world's third largest energy consumer and the world's second largest consumer of coal, behind China.
India needs more and more coal to help the economy grow faster than before and support the lives of millions of its people. But coal also poses serious risks to human health and the environment.
Pollution is a threat to humanity.
We are poisoning ourselves and our future generations.
Can India move away from the highly polluting power source like coal to cleaner energy? And if so, how soon can it do it? What will be the cost to the lives of its people? Should it stop relying on the nation's most critical resource? Thick, grey dust hangs in the air as giant machines and men work relentlessly, gouging deep ruts through the earth. They are mining coal in the open-cast mines outside Ranchi in India's eastern state of Jharkhand. Each scoop of the black rock emptied onto the dumpsters adds more money to the mining company's coffers and more power to the electricity grid. An endless procession of dumpers continues throughout the day, unfurling a giant canvas in shades of grey and black on the face of the earth. Coal is plentiful in this resource-rich district, one of the country's poorest. Around 40% of people live below the poverty line, surviving on less than $1 a day. Though coal is dirty and burning coal is dangerous for human health and the environment, the lives of millions of poor people in India's coal belt depend on the readily available mineral resource. Their immediate concern is survival, and they are willing to risk their lives to collect coal and sell it in the local market to just stave off hunger. 13-year-old Gauri Kumari lives in one of the countless impoverished squatter colonies surrounding the mines in Jharkhand. She leaves home in the evening and returns well past midnight after collecting a few chunks of coal in a sack. She goes out again at the break of dawn to repeat the process.
हम लोग कोयला लाने जाते 8 बजे, फिर आते रात को 1-2 बजे, और फिर आकर हम लोग खाना उना खाकर सो जाते हैं। फिर 7 बजे जाते, 6 बजे जाते कोयला लाने और 7 बजे आते हैं। और फिर हम स्कूल चल जाते हैं। स्कूल से आकर 1 बजे फिर कोयला लाने जाते हैं और फिर 2 बजे आकर फिर 3 बजे ट्यूशन चले जाते हैं। और ट्यूशन से 6 बजे आते हैं और फिर थोड़ा पढ़ उड़ कर फिर 8 बजे जाते हैं कोयला निकालने।
The coal Gauri painstakingly collects each day is the family's primary source of income. The raw coal is first set on fire until it's charred. Is then packed in sacks and piled on baskets that men and women sell as cooking fuel in the market. The family has survived by selling scavenged coal to traders all their lives.
कोयला लाने के बाद फिर जलाते हैं और जलाकर उसको बोरा में भरते हैं। फिर बोरा वो अंकल लोग ले जाते हैं और अंकल लोग बेच कर आते हैं, तब हम लोग को पैसा मिलता है, तब हम लोग खाना बनाते हैं और खाते हैं।
Gauri's dangerous forays into Jharkhand's dark coal pits are fraught with danger. A mine is a protected area and heavily guarded. Sometimes, security guards catch her. But she escapes severe punishment since she's a minor. Gauri is usually accompanied on her nightly mission by her two friends in the colony.
निशा जाती है और शीला को भी यही प्रॉब्लम है। उनका पापा कोरोना टाइम में डेथ कर गए, इसी कारण वो अपना हॉस्पिटल पापा को नहीं ले जा पाई, इसी कारण उनका पापा डेथ कर गए, इसी कारण वो भी कोयला लाती है। हाँ, कभी कभी पुलिस लोग आते हैं तो दौड़ाते हैं, एक बड़े से पहाड़ी उस पर हम लोग को चढ़ना पड़ता है और फिर पकड़ा जाएंगे तो फिर वो अंकल बोलेंगे कि नहीं लाना है, डांटने लगते हैं, बोलते हैं अब से तुमको यहाँ पे नहीं आना है। तो और लोग बोलते हैं नहीं आएंगे तो हम लोग फिर खाएंगे कैसे, तो वो बोलते हैं कि हम इतना थोड़ा ना जानते तुम लोग खाएगी कि नहीं खाएगी।
Despite the death-defying forays by Gauri, her family still maintains a precarious existence. Her father is incapacitated from a fall. Her mother can only sell a few samosas when Gauri can't collect coal.
मम्मी चावल बना देती है सिर्फ, और ये सब्जी ये सब नहीं बनाती है मम्मी, और फिर हम लोग को चावल ही खाकर सोना पड़ता है। जब पुलिस लोग दौड़ाता है और वहाँ पे रहता है तो हम लोग नहीं जा पाते हैं, और फिर मम्मी समोसा बेचकर घर में खाना वाना बनाती है। बारिश में भी हम लोग नहीं जा पाते हैं तो मम्मी घर ही से समोसा बेचती है।
The plight of Gauri encapsulates in a microcosm the economic and environmental dilemma India as a nation faces. Gauri needs coal to survive, but she wants to come out of the dark abyss where she and her family are stuck. India also needs coal to grow quickly and pull millions out of poverty. But its dependence on coal comes at a heavy price. Coal is the single most significant factor behind man-made climate change. When set on fire, it also releases carbon dioxide, accounting for 2/3 of total greenhouse gas emissions from the electricity sector. India is also the world's third largest carbon polluter, and its coal-fired power plants account for more than 70% of the country's power generation capacity.
It is absolutely the case that at the moment, energy and in particular electricity use is heavily dependent on coal. So about 75% of India's electricity comes from coal. Until a few years ago, it was the cheapest way to produce electricity. And there's a lot of evidence that shows that social development moves in tandem with energy use. And in this case, electricity use is a very convenient form of energy. And so for any developing country, just to achieve basic social indicators. So for example, there's an index called the Human Development Index. And analysis shows that up to a certain level, to increase human development, we have to increase energy use. And the cheapest way of doing that has historically been coal.
India does have huge reserves of coal, domestic reserves of coal, so that is certainly one reason why it definitely has a dependence on it, because it's a traditionally cheap form of energy, particularly for electricity consumption. I think coal contributes about 70% to electricity consumption in India. But as well as that, there's this dependence on imports in order to keep the supply chain regular.
When you look at the sources of fuel that we use, what are the main sources? Coal, oil, natural gas, and to very little extent uranium, and solar, of course. Look at, for instance, oil. 86% of total requirement is imported. So we are vulnerable in terms of energy security. 56% of our natural gas is imported. Uranium, quite a bit of uranium is imported. Even solar power, 90% equipment are imported, mostly from China. The only source of fuel that gives us absolute confidence and 100% energy security is coal, because coal is in our own grounds.
But the black rock scooped out of the ground pollutes. Even then, it's not easy for India to cut its coal dependence and turn its back on the mineral suddenly. Experts believe India doesn't really have an alternative to coal right now.
In India, there's a cost because of coal mining. There's a cost because we have to take away the forests where coal is found to be able to mine the coal. There is then the cost of displacement of tribal communities who lived in these forests. There is then the pollution that comes out of burning the coal in thermal power plants, and of course, the huge toxic burden of fly ash that we have. So there is no doubt that there is an environment, social cost of coal, but it is also very clear that coal today is the cheapest form of energy, and countries like India have no alternative but to use it.
PM Prasad, the head of Central Coalfields Limited, or CCL, a subsidiary of the world's largest coal producer, Coal India, echoes the experts' sentiments. He says coal will be important for the country for the next 3 decades, even as it moves towards cleaner energy.
We are having abundant reserves. It can last for 150 to 200 years. But other environmental factors we have to address. Coal will stay as a mainstay for at least next 20-30 years. There is no dearth of coal reserves, and the production can be ramped up. And only we have to place in place the environmental measures. We have to take some clean energy initiatives. We have to reduce the pollution. We have to go for mass plantation, afforestation, as the CL is doing.
Drill operator Bir Bada Singh has spent decades in the coal mines and knows all too well the plight of both permanent and casual workers at close range. 58-year-old Bir Bada heads the Dhanbad Colliery Workers' Union with 13,000 members. He knows the coal workers' condition has worsened over the years.
पूर्व में जो स्थिति थी वो आज नहीं है, आज के समय में, और हालात जो है बिगड़े हैं। 10 साल पूर्व में जो है कर्मी को जो सुविधा मिल पाती थी वो आज नहीं मिल पा रही है। आज वो सुविधा नहीं है, आज स्थिति और दयनीय हो गई है।
Still, Bir Bada thinks coal mining cannot be stopped.
अगरचे कोयला को एकदम साइड कर दिया जाए तो जो कर्मी हैं कोयला क्षेत्र में उनको दूसरे जगह कहाँ मतलब वैकल्पिक व्यवस्था दिया जा सकता है। जो शिक्षित हैं उन्हें रोजगार नहीं मुहैया कर पा रही है सरकार, तो जो अशिक्षित हैं, जो अस्थायी मजदूर हैं, चाहे अस्थायी मजदूर जो अशिक्षित हैं, जिनको शिक्षा नहीं है, जो अपनी रोजी रोटी का जुगाड़ जीवन यापका जो चला रही है कोयला में रह करके, वो अगर से कोयला उत्पादन बंद कर दिया जाए तो उसकी स्थिति और खराब हो जाएगी।
Cheap and plentiful coal now threatens the very world it helped create. It still is the leading energy source worldwide for generating electricity. However, it pollutes the earth dangerously. Pollutants released by burning coal traps heat that causes global warming and climate change. What will happen to the millions of people if coal is phased down in India? Can the country deal with the impact of pollution on poor people who have been suffering from diseases and deaths for years? Jharkhand is gasping for breath. It's known as India's resource-rich state, but it's also one of its poorest. The state has also gained its reputation as the pollution capital of India. Here, in Joria, a town in the eastern Jharkhand state, the squatter colonies around the coal mines are shrouded in smoke and haze. A study in 2015 showed that all cities in Jharkhand, including Ranchi and the Jaria subdivision on Dhanbad, had hazardous levels of pollution all year round. The study also pointed out that the significant causes of air pollution in these areas include coal mining, mine fires, and vehicular pollution. Though the pollution poses an immediate health risk, colony inmates ignore the obvious hazard since they're busy making ends meet. "35-year-old Ruby with 5 children knows all too well how pollution can destroy one's life. Her husband Ranjit sold coal to just get by.
कोयला गाड़ी उड़ी भरता था, गाड़ी नहीं मिलता था तो वही कोयला चोरी करता था, ला के बेचते थे माथा तक ले जाके 150 हो जाता, वहाँ से आता घर के खर्चा निकालता, मेरे बच्चा लोग के देता था, ये चीज़ खाओ।
In March last year, Ruby's husband fell ill. Ruby took him to a doctor who gave him some medicine, but his condition did not improve.
पहले बुखार लगा, वो कहा कि मेरा ठीक नहीं लग रहा, तो उसको दवाई कराएंगे, दिए तो 2 दिन दिए, अच्छा नहीं हुआ, प्राइवेट गई, वहाँ चेक किया बीपी, तो उसको देह में खून नहीं था, खून चढ़वाए, और यहाँ से वहाँ फिर बोला कि नहीं हम यहाँ नहीं अच्छा करने सकेंगे, तो यहाँ चल गए दूसरा जगह, वहाँ बोला कि नहीं हम यहाँ अच्छा करने पड़ेंगे, तो मतलब गरीब जात कितना हम लोग दौड़ेंगे, जहाँ जहाँ बताएगा प्राइवेट में नहीं दौड़ेंगे, अच्छा बचाना है तो।
Still, Ruby kept returning to different hospitals with her sick husband. After 3 months of struggle, Ranjit died last year at the age of 40, leaving his impoverished family with no means of supporting themselves. Ranjit was diagnosed with tuberculosis, a common but deadly ailment among people in the colonies.
प्राइवेट में दिखाए, रिपोर्ट निकला, टीबी बोला, टेस्ट करा के देखा, वहाँ जाओ अब हम नहीं बचा पाएंगे, कोई मदद नहीं किया, ना मेरा गोतिया में नहीं मेरा नेहरा वाला, मेरा बाल बच्चा भी तो पिलट रहा भूखा प्यासा, न बत्ती बचा न घर के अनाज बचा, कैसे क्या करे, किसको मदद ले, अब तो 4 गो लड़की है, 1 गो लड़का नन्हा मुन्ना, मैं बेटी लोग के शादी कैसे करेंगे, यही तो एक कमाने वाला, हो सके कि हम मर जाएंगे तो बीच सड़क में तड़पना छोड़ दे।
Despite the risks involved, Ruby can't turn her back on coal since that's her only source of income. She makes regular trips with baskets of coal on her head to sell to a trader. She's defiant and resigned to her fate.
पति के तो जाने के बाद तो हम तो काम तो सिखाई ही गया है कोयला काठी करने के लिए, वही कोयला जाते हैं 4 बजे अंधेरा में पाते हैं 2-3 जोड़ी, न गाड़ दौड़ाने लगता है, कोयला ला करके हम फोड़ा लगाते हैं, माथा पर बेचते हैं गली गली। मेरा रिश्तों वाला भी नहीं जिंदा है, मेरा बाप माँ भाई सब मर गए, हाँ चीज़ के डर लगेगा, 5-5 को बाल बच्चा कैसे भी मर धस के खिलाने के, हाँ चीज़ के डर लगेगा। मेरा भी देह में है जख्म, दुख है, अभी बढ़ रहा तो कौन रहती, थरथरी लग रहा है, कमजोरी अटाला, कब हम भी गुजर जाए।
कोलियरी क्षेत्र जो है, जैसे झरिया हुआ, कतरास हुआ, वगैरह वगैरह, अशिक्षित भी हैं, वो शिक्षित पूर्ण नहीं है। जो कोयला क्षेत्र में कोयला के ऊपर ही रह रहे हैं, जहाँ आग लगा हुआ है, भूधसान हो रहा है, शिक्षित आदमी तो अपने मतलब जीवन यापन जो है ऊंचा स्तर है, वो तो ऊंचे जगह रहेंगे, अच्छे जगह रहेंगे। और दूसरी बात है रोजी रोटी, कोयला पर ही मतलब रहना पसंद करता है, जहाँ उसको आसानी से कोयला मिल जाए, उसको रोजगार के लिए, अपने पेट भरण के लिए जो है कोयला आसानी से मिल जाए, मार्केट में बेच करके और जो है अपना जीविका चला सकें, तो उनको जो है जो सुरक्षित क्षेत्र है उस जगह जाके बसाया जाए।
Indians who live closer to those open cut coal mines have up to 90% chance of very serious health effects, if not cancers, a shortened life expectancy. As you go further away from those open cut coal mines, those health effects, are shown to decrease. Fly ash from coal-fired power stations is known to be a very big contributor here.
Most of these coal producing states are poor. They don't have even access to energy that they are producing. In fact, most of the energy or electricity that gets produced goes to manufacturing sector and as well as cities. And people who are into coal extraction are facing the brunt. They are subsidizing the production, and they are the ones who are paying through their lives because they live in very high pollution situation. And yes, those deaths have been increasing, and we have still not been able to tackle that problem. So coal extraction has a number of dimensions, from local pollution to displacement. So it is the poor communities in India that is paying the cost of coal extraction in so many ways.
Permanent workers in the coal mines enjoy the benefits of healthcare and housing. There are more than 250,000 permanent workers employed by the government-run Coal India. But there are hundreds of thousands of casual and illegal workers like Ruby who can't avail of any benefits. Sometimes they get temporary work as coal loaders for roughly 1,000 rupees or about $13 a week, and are exploited by private labor contractors. At other times, they risk their lives scavenging coal. 37-year-old Dr. Vikas Kumar Rana is the nodal officer for COVID vaccination in the district hospital, Dhanbad. Dr. Rana has seen the poor state of workers' health during his field trips to the mine areas.
This pollution is very high, coal dust is very much. People who live there and people who work there, they inhale and they just get accumulate in their lungs. After accumulation, it will develop bronchial asthma, allergic bronchitis. Later it will lead to bronchial cancer. In many children I am seeing in my daily practices, they are suffering from allergic bronchitis. So it's a very alarming situation. A small baby of 1 year or less than 1 year is suffering from allergic bronchitis. It's very difficult. How he will survive in long time? After getting adult, he may develop allergic bronchial asthma. If they are not getting properly treated, they may lead to tuberculosis and bronchial cancer also.
Though Ruby's husband died without proper medical care, Dr. Rana says the government has taken many steps to help even casual or illegal workers in the collieries.
There are many, you have seen that they are carrying coal over their head. So these are illegal workers. They are digging and selling their coals. When they burn and their ash they inhale. For them also we are going to engage. There are our health sector planning officer is there, and health facility A&M is working there. We go with our team, health checkup team is going there, and they are having survey of them all. If they are facing any problem, any symptoms, if they can't go there, then A&M of that area is providing them medicine. If it is a very high, serious condition, then just they are giving call to 108, ambulance is coming, and we are taking them to medical college or government hospital there for their free treatment.
A short distance from Ruby's colony, numerous fires spew poisonous gases into the atmosphere day and night. The fires, gushing out from deep below the Earth's surface, have been burning for decades. Though scientists are not sure how the fires started, many believe the flames were exposed to oxygen by open-cast mining, which in turn caused the fires to break through the Earth's surface. A recent report said air pollution kills 1.2 million Indians every year and costs the economy an estimated 3% of GDP. And it's not just pollution in the mine areas, but also in the biggest cities, such as Delhi, that's become a major concern. Can India cut down on fossil fuels, reduce air pollution, and follow through on its pledge to fight climate change? Toxic smog is choking India's capital, New Delhi. The air quality has been deteriorating steadily for years, and it has become a lot worse of late. In fact, New Delhi is now ranked as the most polluted capital in the world. The pollution makes breathing difficult for many residents in the city. It affects 50 million people in the region, forcing even schools to close, especially in winter. It causes irreversible lung damage to more than 2 million children and adults, deepening a public health and economic crisis in the nation. 23-year-old Chanchal Yadav is a bright young woman who represents New India. She holds a master's degree in political science and aspires to be a civil servant after passing the prestigious civil service examinations. Yadav is also a national gold medal winner in shooting, a sport she chanced upon when she was in college. But Yadav suffered a big jolt when she moved to Delhi to continue her shooting practices. Her health took a turn for the worse. She suffered from nosebleeds, nose blockages, and even skin allergies. She couldn't even breathe at times, and that adversely affected her performance.
I came to Delhi in 2016. During winters, the pollution levels were so high that I faced nose blockages, and because of it, a lot of allergies and headaches. I also faced skin allergies. My face used to get red, and this was a major barrier in my performance because in shooting you need great breathing capacity. So it was affecting my performance.
Yadav has spared no effort to get fit. She's on medication and follows a strict exercise regimen. She can't even step out of her home without wearing double masks, something she has been doing for the last few years. But to no avail.
I cannot step out of my house without wearing 2 masks. People are wearing masks because of COVID now, but I used to wear masks since last 5 years, and also using a lot of saline sprays and anti-allergens and a lot of other medications for 5 years.
Now, doctors have advised Yadav to leave Delhi if she has to get her health back and wants to continue as a shooter.
My doctor told me that it is not your problem, it is the problem of your environment, and you will be completely fine if you shift to some hilly areas or northeastern states because they are less polluted as compared to northern plains. And she also suggested me to keep an air purifier in my room and an air humidifier in my room.
Undoubtedly, India faces a public health crisis on air pollution. But the problem is that it is not just a problem, it is not just a public health crisis caused by coal use and energy use. The air pollution problem, if not quite as complex as climate change, is also vastly complex. It is, in fact, a five-source problem. It is a problem of power plants, yes, but it's also a problem of transport emissions, of biomass burning, whether for cooking or whether for crop clearing fields of stubble. It is also a dust and construction dust problem, and each of these problems has its own complex dynamics. But I think the smart money says it makes a lot of sense to move away from coal-based dependence on coal-based, fossil fuel-based electric power for both air pollution and climate reasons.
But moving away from fossil fuels may not be that easy for a fast-growing developing nation like India. If anything, the nation's energy needs are expected to grow even further in the coming decades. And it needs crucial energy resources, including coal, to help power its booming economy or risk undermining its growth momentum.
We have got 1 billion people who can, I would describe them as energy poor. Out of 1.36 billion, 1 billion Indians are energy poor. And if you have to sustain economic growth, and you have to do that in order to pull these people out of poverty, you need faster growth. We need to grow at least at 10%. And for that, you need energy. And energy means that you need more oil, you need more natural gas, and you may need more coal. And so that we can fast track development, we can grow faster, and we can eradicate overall poverty in this country.
Though Yadav's future is uncertain, Delhi's pollution crisis doesn't have an easy solution. Experts believe the only way is to remove the primary sources of pollution which make New Delhi the most polluted capital on the planet.
But now we have learned that unless we take transformational action on two counts. One, to make sure that we reduce the use of coal in this region, because there is huge amount of coal that is burnt in industrial areas in the surroundings of Delhi, because coal is still cheaper than gas, and so industry has to burn coal, and that is a major cause of air pollution. There is then of course the fact that there is massive numbers of vehicles still in our cities, and we need effective public transport policies to be able to reduce the use of personal vehicles. The third, of course, is that we have episodal pollution, which comes in particularly during 15 days of November when the farmers burn paddy, and that coincides with the worst cold days of Delhi.
There are many factors behind pollution across different regions and cities. But what is very clear is that burning of coal and fossil fuels contributes majorly to air pollution in the nation. The question is, can India move away from the vastly polluting substances and seek a sustainable and clean future? Can it deliver on its bold promise to achieve a net zero carbon emissions target by 2070? Or is it nothing more than mere rhetoric? Fossil fuel burning has brought the future of life on this planet into question. The world has finally woken up, so has India. But can India and the world do enough to minimize the threat to this planet? At the UN Conference of the Parties, or COP26 in Glasgow last November, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi made bold promises to put his country back on track. He said India will install 500 gigawatts of renewable power capacity by 2030. He also promised that India will meet 50% of its energy requirements from renewable energy by the same year. Above all, India has pledged to reach a net zero carbon emissions target by 2070. These are lofty goals, but experts are divided over the country's chances of achieving the targets.
I feel that carbon neutrality by 2070 conversation is a conversation that was brought about because the global community needed to hear the words net zero from India. But 2070 is a very, very long way away. 2070 is 50 years in the future. My point is not to worry so much about distant future targets. The question to be asked in India and other countries is, please tell us what you'll do in the next 10 years. If we don't take substantial action in the next 10 years, then you can say goodbye to net zero down the road.
India definitely can live up to the promise. India will remain dependent on coal, but it will make sure that it substantially will rework its energy system so that the new energy system will be from cleaner sources, renewable or fossil fuel. But it will come at a cost.
India certainly faces a dilemma, if not perhaps a crisis. I think this is a real crux, and this is a very critical potential turning point for India, because we have now had COP26 and there has been the decision made to phase down the carbon intensity, although we are seeing more coal mines being mined in India. But I think promisingly, we're also seeing that there has been a commitment by the Indian government to phase in renewables. Now, whether that phasing can happen fast enough, I think, is the big question.
I think 2070, the agenda, my own sense is, being someone who specializes on energy, probably will get there faster, sooner. I think we'll get there sooner. Let's not forget one thing. In India, we need to fast track transition from fossil to renewable, not because we have signed any agreement in Glasgow or in Paris. We have to do it for our own reasons, for the health of our people, our children, our grandchildren. We are a union of states. Majority of states and the central government is moving in that direction. As I said, go by cold statistics of, let's say, solar power. We have got among the most impressive record in the world. So India is moving in that direction.
One man who's helping his country go forward in the direction of renewables is 33-year-old Amol Anand, co-founder of Loom Solar near Delhi. Anand set up his company 3 years ago and it's now growing at 50% every year. His company employs more than 100 people and produces 80,000 solar panels a year.
So I would say that we have started this company assuming that the solar power will do well. And we are working in a sector which is, I would say, non-organized, none of the players are working over here. So we see huge potential in the solar sector because every home needs electricity. In 2021, we have grown about 50%. And this was a time when the COVID was on the peak. There was lot of issues with the income of the people. They were not going out. However, the demand of electricity at a home level has increased. In 2022, when the economy will open wide, the GDP will grow faster, we see that large number of people will get employment and they will get good home salary. That means that there will be more money to the consumers and they will spend over savings in solar power.
Anand, however, believes it's difficult for the nation to reach the rooftop solar target soon, even though it's likely to attain the target in the utility sector where solar panels are set up by business units.
India has already achieved about 39% of the target this year. So they will achieve the target from the utility segment, but it is going to be difficult to achieve the target from the rooftop segment.
Like Anand, another man who's helping build a cleaner future is Kistej Kumar. 44-year-old Kumar is the co-founder of Goreen E-Mobility, which produces electric scooters. Kumar's company makes 30,000 e-scooters a year, but he believes the number will grow. He says the country's target of switching entirely to electric vehicles in another 10 years is achievable.
See, the government's done a lot of very positive work as far as setting the targets is concerned for electric vehicles. Now, our plan is basically to go completely electric by 2030, which is a realistic target because now the transition, the first phase of adoption has started as far as the end customer is concerned, and people have started using electric vehicles as their primary vehicle. Actually, the shift in smaller towns is more. Recently, figures came out that the top 2 states for electric vehicles are Delhi, obviously because of its subsidy, and even higher than Delhi was UP. So we are seeing a lot of traction in the rural market, so the transition is happening.
The sooner India makes the transition, the better for itself and the world. Even coal scavenger Gauri hopes she can escape from the dark abyss of coal pits one day and become a doctor.
हम पढ़ लिख कर एक बच्चा का डॉक्टर बन जाए, जैसे कोरोना में सब डॉक्टर लोग ये पेशेंट लोग को बचाए, वैसे ही हम भी बनना चाहते हैं पढ़ लिख कर.
Shooter Chanchal Yadav also hasn't given up hope. She believes she can achieve her dreams in a cleaner and sustainable environment.
Dreams never die, I feel this. So I always devote 12 hours to shooting and then next 12 hours into studying. I'm still very determined to fight it and to achieve what I want to and not let these barriers of pollution stop me from doing what I want.
Evidently, India needs a massive energy transition, which has begun to happen. But ensuring a well-planned and just transition away from coal and fossil fuels in a country of India's size and complexities is easier said than done. Tens of millions of people are dependent on coal and related industries, and experts think their lives cannot be put at risk by just wishing away coal.
India is not some small country. We have to be very, very conscious and make sure that we are not compromising beyond a point in terms of energy security. So which means that we can't suddenly say goodbye to coal. We have got large reserves for coal, or goodbye to everything and just say we go only for renewable. If we switch overnight, millions will go back to poverty. And you don't have this option today that you go back to caves. So we need to grow faster using fossil fuels so that we can actually go for kind of zero emission levels. We can go for more climate friendly economy, and we can go for greener economy all across faster.
As per estimates, about 20 million people in India are dependent on coal and the other related sectors such as steel and brick making, and which is a big number, and India cannot just talk about abrupt transition from coal. We have to make sure that people who are dependent are getting some kind of support to make that transition. Otherwise, it's going to cause social and economic disruption. And that's why the whole concept of just transition, which is based on fairness and equity, is extremely important. And that's what we are calling for at the international level. So India needs to have that plan.
India needs to have the leeway to figure out how to make its own transition. It's nobody's case, at least it shouldn't be anybody's case, that India wants to continue to hang on to coal off into the distant future. I think, as I said, it would mean we are a dirty, uncompetitive country if we do that. But that's not the same as saying that we should shut down tomorrow and impose a lot of costs on the millions of poor people in India. We have to have some time and space to figure out our transition.
But transition it must, since it doesn't simply have a choice. It has to find a cleaner, sustainable pathway, even as it aims to lift millions out of poverty and deprivation.
I don't think there's a choice about whether we move away. The only question is how we move away and how we do it in a sensible way that creates an alternative development trajectory for those regions. And those regions can't be expected to do it themselves. They're among the poorest regions in India. This has to be something that happens at a national level with resources and skills and programs to enable that transition to happen over a decadal time span.
Though coal and fossil fuels have driven the phenomenal growth of modern civilization, the end of this polluting road is now in sight. The world may not reach the end in the coming decade, but the pathway to reach the end is already laid out. The floodgates to phase out coal have been forced open. Die-hard coal nations, such as India, have begun to read the writing on the wall and have agreed to phase down the dirtiest of fossil fuels. The question is, how quickly can India shut down its coal mines and switch to renewables? The coming decade will possibly throw up some of the answers.